Hey guys, George here. And today what I'm going to bring to you are my final thoughts for Hangers On, the playtest scenario that was playtesting for Don Petro's. I played it to turn 3. And you might think, George, why didn't you play it to the end? That's a good question. Let's just say maybe I overthought it, okay? Uh, or I was overthinking it. In what respect? Well, first and foremost, uh, you see that there's a lot of hip units, right? There's supposed to be 2 squad equivalents, and the guns set up hip. Fortifications are hip, but the contents and pillboxes are not supposed to be hip or concealed, apparently. Then there are special rules as to how to shoot at pillboxes. Um, Earl Grey, by the way. The special cup is in the wash. Hand clean it only. Anywho, so let's just say that I'm beginning to think that this scenario is not suitable for solo play, or maybe it is. Um, and I simply couldn't put my heart into it because every time I play one of these scenarios that is Capriquet, I seem to get into a jam. The jam being is how do the Canadians advance into open ground, and why would anybody order um, their troops to march across open ground, knowing on the other end, you know, haven't we learned a lesson that marching in wide open spaces in no man's land, while there's machine guns on the other side, that's a faux pas. You don't do that unless you want to incur high casualties. So I was thinking as to how can the allied player succeed in this scenario. First and foremost, there's too many hip units, at least in my opinion. I'm not knocking the. There's too much hip, too much unknown, and you know what? I'm not knocking. I'm not criticizing it. What I'm saying is yeah, it kind of here comes the realism argument, but the historical account of the events was that in fact to the advancing Canadians, the Germans, the 12th SS, Panzer losers, call them what you want, okay? We're not directly visible. I saw some documentaries, World War II TV, ODT history, and they kind of, kind of enlightened the whole scenario behind the historical events and how they transposed. So having played one scenario where with the initial attack just on Carpiquet village, where I got cut down tremendously, I said to myself, well, what the heck is going on? And both Dino and I were recommending an LV, and an LV would not be far from the truth. Again, the realism argument, but if you want a historical scenario or a scenario with a historical flavor to it, after the initial artillery barrage, there's hell everywhere, smoke and whatnot. And I was thinking, what a creeping barrage, because I know there's a smoke barrage, and then there's a in chapter E there's this rules about creeping barrages, and I asked Don about it, and he says, well, people wouldn't think of a creeping barrage because the rules are too complicated. They're not too complicated. They're just a bit involved because if you draw a red card, then there's some pre-game or pre-turn um, maneuvering that you have to do. But ultimately, the artillery will come down and creep 2 hexes forward per player turn. depending on whether you want it to take place on the prep fire and defensive fire or just the prep fire phase. But then there's a footnote 33 in chapter E as an echo that says, well, creeping barrage was a thing of World War One and wasn't used in World War Two because it was a waste of ammunition. So instead, they had the rolling barrage. So why didn't they call the rolling barrage as opposed to creeping barrage? I'm not sure. However, with a pre-registered hex and an off-board observer, you are allowed a smoke barrage. A smoke barrage will give you a +3 um, modifier on your first movement phase, a +2 on the second, enough for you to touch base. So with that in mind, let me unfold the events as they happened. I'm going to try and center my screen in such a fashion that you can see what the heck is going on. And this time I'm going to also make a little thumbnail because I've been seeing my videos without a thumbnail and they look a little bit creepy. I repositioned everything so you can see the events as they unfold in the dice. I keep forgetting that you guys like to watch the dice. But here's where I'm going with this. So I redid my setup for this scenario for the Germans. And then even at the end of turn 3 of this scenario, I said to myself, maybe I could have done better. Maybe I could have done better, but this is what I like to do is I kind of make a hypothetical order of battle. Each leader has three squads, well, let's say it's a platoon, and away we go. Okay, now I'm asking myself, okay, where is the off-board observer? That little green dot is the off-board observer, and I'm putting my OB in order. Beginning of turn 1, ally turn 1. I should be looking down like this. See that? Beginning of turn 1 here. And down there. Oh, yeah, and I am giving everybody a different objective. Each of these kill stacks. Yep, going full Colonel Stockberg. There's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes you need to stack. You see, I'm bringing everybody up to the board, and I'm thinking, I'm thinking Smoke Barrage, Chapter E. That's going to save my behind. The other thing I'm thinking about though is with 2 and 3 registered hexes. How the heck am I going to remember that? I mean, I literally will have to do a note either on a half page or a quarter page or one of these cue cards and jot it down and tattoo it on the inside of my eyelids for all that matter. And yeah, I mean, at a certain point, OBA in close quarters fighting can be very counterproductive. Yes, I decided to go on a smoke barrage spree and I can advance. Just a quick overview of the of my German setup. I have a 75 turret here, 75L. That should be enough to tear through some Canadian armor. A token force down here, a token reinforcement force. Okay, a 20 L here, a gun with 6 firepower factor equivalent, and here, excuse me, here I was hoping that the 88 would try and expel units from up here. It's a bit, I don't know. I'm back with it. The pillboxes. The pillboxes really constrain the Germans. And listen, I am not complaining. Let's be perfectly clear. I'm not complaining. It's just that um, loaded scenario. It's a loaded scenario. It's very historical. Captures the historical flavor to this whole thing. But okay, here I am. I'm a bit of a flank attack up there to take the northern part of the village, and now I am doing a assault. I laid down a smoke barrage, turned into an FFE2, and completely forgot where the heck the wire was. There's a wire behind that wall in near the hangars. It's fantastic. The boys are back in town, but they're out with their friends. Although it's raining, Saturday night. I'm here stuck. Hey, again, I ain't complaining. Heavy armor, and think about where you can position that 88 uh, AT gun. Was it an AT gun? I corrected it. I think I did. AA gun. Okay, AA gun. Big deal. At the end of the game, in ground mode, you can put it in ground mode or you put it in AA mode. Here we are trying to get acquisitions, but the heavy duty Averies and just advanced uh, uh, into a pillbox. I could have very well put it into a pillbox. 5 per points, big deal. Then it constrains the covered art. In a way, I'm happy I didn't put the 88 on that pillbox. A couple of things happened. I have also a mortar here. Is there a tree line there? I'm not too sure. I don't think there's a big much of a tree line anywhere except here. So that's a good place to defend. My onboard observer is up there on the steeple with a heavy. Let's keep it steady and see how the advance is going. I was under the opinion that um, once the infantry advancing here with the tanks gets a foothold on the village hexes, captures 10 stone building hexes, also that road, then the 4 hangars come easy. Um, I think I'm not in a position to judge whether this scenario is balanced or not. I think it needs to be played a little bit more. I think that the only thing I would add to this scenario is that I wouldn't. I would say that bore sighting is not applicable. I think that's the only change that needs to be done. I would have played it to the end had two-player a two-player situation going on as opposed to me playing solo. It's a bit too taxing to play solo, I find. The second log, let's continue. Well, that means I just loaded the second log. So here's my little smoke barrage, 9 hexes in a single file, parallel to the offboard observer. Pretty much the Germans and Germans were not that effective. I think the my rolls, my rolls, the Germans were not that effective, but nor were the British that effective as well. I think my rolls, rolling boxcars, made a big difference for me. Um, just put this center of the board like that. I know it's big. I'm not zooming in, but here we go. Tree line, spectacular. Pin a guy, DM a guy with the AA gun. We're rolling with the poking at the end of the game, like, or at the end of the day, if your enemy is sitting behind a +3 smoke barrage, +2, a +5 modifier, I ain't gonna cut it. It's just not gonna result in anything but a sniper check. So what I was happy about as well was there wasn't any spreading of blazes. So whatever blaze you get at the beginning of the scenarios on whatever rubble you get, that is it. That is all. And you just continue with the assault and see what's going on. Here we are trying to correct our FFPC, 3 hexes. And then I just said, forget about it. Just forget about it. The battalion mortar for the Germans result in anything, and it could have very well have ended up as a resulting in friendly fire. So at one point I said, OBA, what do I need it for? I got my smoke. It's a 7-turn scenario. Charge ahead, get your objectives. That's what happened. A couple of exceptional situations. At a certain point in time, I just said, okay, I'll play this thing again. The scenario. I'll play the scenario again, but it has to be in 2-player mode. Not solo. I have to be careful what scenarios I play solo. Allied heavy armor, man. I've watched a video, a documentary on this battle, and it said that to this day, the German bunkers have scorch marks on them from the flamethrowing the Chaudinière did, and Canadian units. Gary Horse. There you go. Oh, he's in thousand Daisy there. And there are situations where the crab can clear a wire. Heavy begins pounding northern flank, and since he called the OBA, the leader up there called OBA, he couldn't use his fire direction. But the Allies got a foothold on their objective with little or no casualties. Let me show you the casualty bin at this stage of the game. It's just turn 2, and the casualty bin. It's coming. Oops. The half squad eliminated. 1 CVP. That's firing. This is the high point of the scenario. It's when, the Allies have established a foothold on the village. Now you, as a German player, you better have some effective fire. And if you don't, you're toast, literally. Good firefights going on. But now I also mouthed a mortar. I mouthed the main armament of the turret. And I just noticed here. Check this out. This 88 had line of sight to that. I didn't pay attention to that. It would have been a +1 hindrance, +2 tem, total of +3, and say if it's +3, it would be what, a 5 to hit? That would have been a good shot. Yeah, I would have pushed back couple of people. I jumped ahead a bit, just showing you that even after uh, the barrage subsided, at this point, at this point, the forces are so close to each other that if you rely on OBA, to succeed, right, you might end up being a victim of friendly fire. And also thinking of here, I didn't see the shot. This is my 88. It's hip, right? It's hip. It can um, eliminate this kill stock. It can fire here. If they decide to come here, now it comes back to my memory, and I'm saying, oh well, that position wasn't that bad. But with the smoke barrage coming down, we were good for the Canadians. We were rolling. The Germans ultimately broke their mortar, which was situated up here guarding this tree line. It was eliminated, completely mouthed. Broke another medium here. The main armament of the turret, which was a 75L, mouthed as well and wouldn't repair. So, bad luck on the German side. A bit of good luck on the um, Canadian side. I played it to the best of my ability with all the energy that I have left in me up to turn 3. I said, I can't do this by myself anymore. I'm probably going to have to seek out a second player, sorry, and not play the solo. Um, it was a bit taxing. Um, a bit taxing, yeah. You have a lot of hip and these registered hexes. Ah, sure. Anywho, going on to the last log, let's take a look and see. So we're advancing, and this fellow here um, got a DC dumped on his head. We're trying to advance onto close enough to take out the Sherman. Um, his fire, he had to use his inherent firepower, um, and got a K slash a morale check here. The unit squatted, but passed his morale with a pin. Here, the mortar was completely eliminated, and keep in mind the 75L mouth. Um, and this unit was eliminated by they were not able to uh, eliminate these units with a demo. Interesting scenario. We were going now. Fort Gary Horse. Here we are going all out with our armor attacks. This scenario would have been over very quickly for the Germans. But up to this point where I played it, my gut feeling is, and perhaps it's too soon to judge, there's one unit too many hip. There's already a lot of units being hip. Secondly, too many pre-registered hexes. Count, count, cut them down to one per player, maximum two. What are you going to do with two pre-registered hexes? It's almost like the player, the designer wants you to think of a creepy barrage maybe. I'm not sure. And the last one would be no bore sighting for the Germans. Based on what I've looked into some documentaries, this operation was um, part of the operation to take Khan. So when the Germans learned about the broader picture, they simply gave up Capriquet and withdrew to save themselves. But they did give a bloody nose to the Allies on this one. But it was mostly a failure of the Canadian leadership rather than German resilience. So, anywho, to the drawing board, I think. But this time, I I think I'm going to seek out the help of another player to play one of the two sides, so I can give more valuable feedback to the scenario designer. That's it, folks. Hey, I managed to squeeze in another video this week. Thank you for all your support and liking and subscribing. Stay in touch. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And hope to see you next week or maybe sooner. Take care.